Welcome back to the Something's Wrong Here podcast. I'm Randy.
I'm Kinsey.
And joining us is James Fox. He is an author, director, screenwriter, actor, and founder at Dawn Runner, Inc. James, welcome. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Excited about it.
So we're going to talk a little bit about evidence. And before we jump into that, just tell us a little bit about yourself, because you do have a pretty interesting, background. And you went to college. You had a fairly solid job choice lined up, and then you jumped into something that's either famine or feast in the acting and directing world. So tell us about that, how you got into it, and what made you stick with it.
Well, it's a very interesting story, actually. I was a genetic engineering major to start with, and I found myself at 3 o'clock in the morning in college watching slime crawl across glass by myself. And I was like, what am I doing with my life? I'm way too social for this. I can't do this. And I walked out on the program, walked away from the scholarships, and was just like, I'll figure it out. My parents freaked, obviously. And I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And a friend called me and said she needed a ride to an audition for a film. And I was like, okay, sure. I don't know what that means, but right, you got it. And we rolled up to this really sketchy motel where there are people walking all over the place. I just didn't feel comfortable leaving her alone. So I went with her. Yeah. Yeah. And so I went with her, and I got there, and they're like, okay, the girls are over here, the guys are over here. You come with me. I'll take you to your audition. I'm like, wait, what? No. And the production assistant was just like not having it. So just physically drugged me into the room, handed me a script, asked if I had a headshot. And I said, a what? And they were like, oh my God, whatever. Just memorize these lines, and your scene partner's right here. You guys are up next. And I was like, but I grew up playing team sports. So the second you put me on a team, I'm going to perform, right? Because I don't want to let my teammate down. So I memorized the script really fast, went in there, acted on camera, did this whole thing, was like, okay, whatever. Sorry, man. And I walked out. Got a call back the next day, was cast 3 days later, and wound up being the lead actor in the feature film's flashback double. I was actually in more of the film than he was. And I did a Vietnam War reenactment. Fell in love with the film industry, enrolled in film school, and the rest is kind of history.
Was there a little animosity after that?
My friend did not get the part, and we stopped being friends for about 10 years, and then she finally forgave me.
Damn. Yeah. Story, though.
Yeah, jealousy's tough.
That it is. So now that we know a little bit about you, we're going to talk about some evidence, and you seem to dive in with a lot of your stuff with sci-fi.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about evidence, and then we talked about, I know you and Kinsey talked about some about alternate universes and multiverses, and you said you had a decent, interesting take on it. Mm-hmm. So what's your take on that?
My take on multiverses, or just in evidence or sci-fi?
And like multiverses with the sci-fi, and
let's call it existence. I think that would be a better word for this version of it, because semantics are going to be a weird one in this one for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We could go down the rabbit hole in semantics on this one, definitely. So I think the thing that I find interesting about existence and kind of what we were talking about is the idea that well, I mean, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of like what is existence or any of that stuff, but there's a lot of these theories that we're in a simulation, that we're this, we're that, the multiverses. I have a personal take, and this is something that I've struggled with anxiety my whole life. I find that when I'm faced with a decision, right, like, do I turn right or do I turn left? If I turn right, I suffer guilt and anxiety over not going left and what it did to the other versions of me in other dimensions, right? Because every time we're faced with a choice, I kind of feel like it spawns a new dimension, right? It's like this branching universe, right? So every time we make a choice, we could have gone A, we could have gone B. There's now a split, right? There's a different version of me that went left instead of right. And what is that person experiencing? Well, should I have gone left? Do they have a better life than me? And it's
So you're
something that
taking
keeps me up at night.
the butterfly effect to a whole nother level, to where it's not only going to affect somebody across the ocean, it's now affecting somebody in a different universe, time, space, and parallel.
Right. Like I've actually suffered guilt over, you know, the best example of this that I can describe is that I once was almost in a car accident, like a pretty significant one, and I wound up with such like an anxiety guilt response to that, like that I felt like I was in the accident and actually hurt the people in the car, and it was a family with young kids and whatever, and it wasn't even my fault, but the fact that it almost happened made me believe that it could have happened in another dimension, because I put myself in that position and I spawned that universe where there was that car accident, right? What a weird thing to feel guilt and anxiety over. Like, we don't have enough in real, our real physical existence to worry about what could be happening extra dimensionally. So,
can you comment on what intoxicants may or may not be present at any of these times? I'm actually curious, because like I respect the hell out of this thought process. I'm trying to think of that Apple TV show right now where they've got the box. It'll evade me for a minute, but it's a good Apple TV show where ultimately it's multiple dimensions at once. And kind of what you're saying is, where if you didn't get in the car wreck, but you felt the emotions, it's because somewhere in some dimension, some parallel reality, whatever the semantics again are going to be for this, you have the emotions instilled in you, but it didn't actually physically happen to you.
right. But just because I created the situation that caused that option, right? That externality event, because I created that situation, I actually did create that car wreck because all possibilities are possible at all times, right? Like, that's the whole idea of extra dimensionality, that everything is happening all at the same time. All outcomes are happening simultaneously. So I made it out, but alternative dimension me didn't, and so it's a very weird thing. No intoxicants, by the way. I don't really even drink. So
I would say a lot of people would probably connect what you were saying probably to like I would assume some sort of a psychedelic, because I know a lot of people will trip and have some sort of a alternate dimension aspects or a connection to whether it be a deity or a higher power or whatever, creator of some sort. I have a question for you. Are you familiar with the prisoner's dilemma?
The prisoner's dilemma. I've heard of it. I can't remember it off the top of my head right now. Refresh my memory.
Quick and dirty version of it would be you and I go into opposite rooms, and we know the rules of the game. If we agree to cooperate, then we will both we'll both raise a green sign, and we both get 3 points or $300 or whatever reward system, right? If you decide to basically defect, you raise a red sign, I raise a green, thinking we were cooperating. You get $500, 5 points, whatever it is. I get nothing. If we both defect, we get each one. So the ultimate goal would be to either the two ideal situations are equal tit for tat, and then you have to figure out how to start tit for tat and maintain non-retaliation, or you have cooperation the entire time. So with like Prisoner's Dilemma and like multiverses or alternate dimensions, etc., I have that thought process, like, to how many of those in our own world, so to speak, in our own creativity, are we defecting, and are we cooperating, and ultimately which one of us is here?
If nothing else, Mr. Beast got rich off of that whole concept.
Yeah, the Beast games or whatever he just did, right? Yeah.
Well, I mean, that sounds a whole lot like a lot of his games are based on, and everything, that prisoner concept.
Yeah, Prisoner's Dilemma is actually exactly what he does a lot of as a core concept. And again, the only ultimate way is that you have to remove emotion. So it's a mathematical equation or an algorithm or a formula or whatever you want to use word there. But the second that you have an emotion, because of the tit for tat or the, pattern and recognition aspect of it, that's the second that it typically goes to shit.
Well, and that's one of the things that I try really hard to write about and involve in my storytelling a lot is the power of agency and decision making, right? So, that's stressing about decisions that I make and situations I put myself in and how they affect multiple versions of myself across dimensions, and having anxiety and guilt from that is, it makes me think a different way about the situations I'm putting myself in. Um, but it's also, um, like not to get theological or anything, but like the idea of hell to me is to be faced with all the decisions I made that were incorrect and what I could have been, or what my life could have been, or all the things I could have done if I had chosen correctly. Like that's my personal idea of hell, is like, here's what you did and here's what you should have done. You know,
Yeah.
like that amount of regret would be crushing.
So what do you do on a daily basis to kind of curb that anxiety? Because obviously you can't look out for 5,000 hypothetical yous at any time. You've got to think about yourself in the present.
You got to maintain what you can control.
Yeah. So what do you do on a daily basis to curb that anxiety that you go through with that?
I've just kind of learned to embrace it, and I try to avoid situations that I deem are dangerous, or I've become very risk averse, I guess, right? Like I just, I try to think things through really desperately, and I'm as successful as I can be, I guess, with that. But it's more of, I've learned to embrace the stress or the anxiety. It's like, okay, well, because I get put in a lot of situations which are not necessarily of my making, right? So I try to forgive myself those, and just know that it's another me that's probably doing that, right? So if it works that way for me at all, I can also blame, fifth dimension me, right? So, and I always try to take a beat and think about that. Like, do I feel like I created this situation, or was this situation kind of thrust upon me? So it's, it sounds wacky, but it's kind of just a fun way to deal with that kind of thinking. I think I just read sci-fi way too young, is what it boils down to.
Makes sense.
We're open books over here, so like don't feel bad or anything like that. We're not here to judge you. I have a fun one for you, and it's an interesting thought process for what you just said. Like, because some of the math and metrics and logic kick in, where what's the most dangerous part of skydiving? The drive to that airport.
Leaving your parking lot. Yeah. Leaving your
Yeah.
driveway. Yeah.
So like, do you hold back on stuff? Like if, I, I don't know your marital status or your relationship status, so to speak, but like if your partner said, hey, let's go jump out of a plane, would you jump on the, oh no, I'm risk averse, or do you have a mathematical metric or a logical sense that takes over and analytically says, well, that's stupid, it's not risk averse? I mean, I guess the safest thing you could argue is to sit on an airplane wearing a parachute, not jumping off, but that just seems weird.
Yeah.
That would be weird, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, how do you deal with stuff like that? Like where you can process some of that.
So I do process it, right? So I do the research. I do like figure out, how many accidents are there, how many accidents were there in this local, zip code, like I will do the deep dive and do like a risk assessment. Luckily I've been saved from doing skydiving because I have a couple back injuries, and the idea of jumping out of an airplane just seems like it's going to hurt, especially that, like the moment the parachute engages. Hard pass for me. It's not worth staying up for a week. But how much of that is me making an excuse for the probabilities of dying due to a parachute accident? I don't know. They're relatively low, as it turns out.
It was my first example, but I guess let's say scuba.
See, I love scuba diving. I go scuba, and I've had several tank failures at depth. And I think one of the things that is interesting with me is that, like, doing the research and like knowing the risks, I run myself through those scenarios, right? So like I knew when my tank failed at 130 feet in the Blue Hole in Belize, I knew exactly what to do. I didn't panic. I just was like, oh, I know exactly what to do here because I researched it. I know, I walked myself through it. I almost kind of like mentally prepped for this is going to happen. And when it did, I just handled it and moved on, right? Later, I was like, oh my God, like that was terrifying. What am I will never get back in the water. And like 3 days later, I was back in the water. So, so I think that's one of the things that kind of helps out is in doing the research and doing that deep dive and thinking about all the different things that could happen I prep for it, right? It's, obviously you can't prep for every single thing, but it's like, what's one of the most common things that happens in scuba diving? A primary regulator failure. So
How is that your approach to everything affected your work? Like how has it motivated you? And because you're a screenwriter, you're making movies and directing, how has that helped your creativeness?
So with the author stuff, it's made me very detail oriented, right? So I'm able to really kind of like deep dive on things and try to get a real visceral experience. It's not just about reading that quick, like first line on a Google search of like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. This is what it's like to do scuba, or this is what it's like to be in a car accident or whatever, right? I do the deep dive. What got them there? What kind of things can happen? What's failing on the car to cause that situation? And in the directing and screenwriting in particular, I've done a lot of weird thinking on things, a lot of like really weird like analyzing and dwelling on things. So I can connect to a lot of stuff that I might not have a direct experience to, but I've done all the research for, which allows me to connect the experience with the actor for the directing, and walk them through, these are some of the things you'd be thinking. These are some of the risks that you would be, taking on and being in this situation. And I think that level of detail really just kind of helps be immersive. I play D&D too, and I've been a dungeon master for like 25 years. And I find that kind of comes out in that too. It's like, as I'm talking with the players, it's the same thing as talking to an actor. Here's a situation you're in. Here's kind of the holistic approach of everything that could happen. And, it gives me, because it's something that I've worried about and thought about, it allows me to kind of let them shift the lens, if you will, on the situation and really get to see a 360 view of it.
Well, I mean, you mentioned D&D, and I won't lie, I've tried it once. And
that's further than I've gone.
I tried. It wasn't my thing. I play nerdy games, but that is my, like, apparently the pole vault, that's the cap where I stop. But with you being a dungeon master, I laugh because it's like your dream. It's your perfect gig, because you're acting, you're directing, you're producing, you're writing. You are, I mean, take Dungeons and Dragons and make it anything. If there was a Monopoly Man announcer for every Monopoly game, you'd be that guy the same way, because you'd be the same thing in a different role. So you can extrapolate Dungeons and Dragons from, big nerd game to, well, just extrapolate it to whatever. You can transpose that, and you're going to do the same thing no matter what. And I think awesome. I'm not shocked by that at all.
Yeah, I mean, managing a team, even from like a corporate level, I mean, you're managing your players, right? You're managing expectations, conflict, productivity, time. I have a lot. I owe a lot to Dungeons and Dragons, actually, because I feel like it made me the director that I am, the storyteller that I am, and the business owner and manager that I am.
Nice. So we were talking about the multiverse, parallel universes, that kind of thing. What version is each parallel universe? So the multiverse, how did they get there? What are they to you? How do they exist? I guess is what I'm trying to ask.
I mean, obviously this is just my opinion and talking from my lived experience, but I believe that it is a branching chain of options, basically, right? Like, it's like the butterfly effect, right? Every single time you make a choice or presented with a choice or different stimuli, how you respond to that, that decision that you make is making a whole new reality, because you choose something different, that changes your whole reality. Like, one choice changes it's that butterfly effect again, right? One choice changes everything. So there's something to that, and I feel like that's really what drives that, like, the spawning of new dimensions, right? Because it has to, right? If there are other dimensions, then there can't just be like a set number of them, because inevitably we'd be making some of the same decisions then, So I think that basically how I feel about it is every choice spawns a new branch, right? So we're this, like, when I imagine it physically, or a physical manifestation of it, it's like tree roots, right? Every time a new branch comes off, it's splitting up.
And which that actually makes sense to me. And I'm going to try to get these numbers correct, because a lot of people vision it as different universes that are out there that exist. And take a deck of cards, for example. It has 52 cards. If you shuffle them, you can come up with basically the equivalent of an 8 with like 67 zeros after it. So to recreate your universe, your world, your reality, the same exact way over and over through these multiple universes is, in my mind, physically impossible. If you shuffled the card and each shuffle was 1 second long, you could shuffle the cards, I believe it's 25 billion years at 1 second a time before you would have to repeat yourself. So to make up these universes to me is impossible, but the way you described it actually makes sense. You're actually taking a linear and then branching off from it every decision that you make. So it's really not that crazy of a concept.
No, and if you want to further blow your mind, think about it like this. My roots and your roots are tangled up. Us just having this podcast together has now spawned multiple, probably thousands of different universes, because now it's all three of us having decisions at the same time. What do we talk about next? How do we answer it? Who's going to listen to it? Right? So the amount of computational data is crazy.
On the real world.
Right, right. Yeah.
Things.
So with the thought process that you have here, and I'm curious to know, I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase this on the fly. You have any portion of your brain that believes or thinks that it could be all in our brain on the multiple dimension level, where so like think of a video game where you've got your damage points, you've got your attack points, you've got whatever, a game where you've got multiple metrics that are performative to you. Do you think that we have like a supercomputer of metrics that shuffle butterfly effect, like you said, every time, and it's all just up in here? It's not like there actually isn't anywhere that you could ever go in with infinite technology, because it's actually just in your brain. So only you can go there. Like in the sense of, I don't know. I feel like I sound like a crackhead right now, guys.
This is a heavy topic.
Makes sense. But I guess where I'm saying, like, the way that I believe this to be is we can't explain consciousness very well. And the people who do fight over it unconscionably. So if you can't explain consciousness very well, is there a chance that consciousness is the millions or billions or trillions or infinite or near infinite dimensions that exist in the neural networks that we also can't really explain a whole lot of right now? And with all of that, it's just up in our head. There's no chance you could ever take someone physically to where you're thinking about. You could never take someone and give them evidence, prove physical anything of a near car wreck, or conversely where the car wreck did occur. Like, you could never physically see it, be there anyhow.
Yeah.
So that's how I've started like linking this to where, maybe it's just alcohol at this point. I don't know. But like, I've started linking what you're describing to the intangible consciousness definition.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I forget who said the cosmos is within us, right? So like it was something I saw once. They just did this big like spectral map of the galaxy, I think they said.
Yep.
Yeah.
You want to know what it looks surprisingly like? A neural cluster.
Yeah. It's in with mycelium.
Right. Yeah.
Mycelium's the same thing.
Yeah, so the more you look at stuff, the more you're saying like, oh, hey, there's actually like an engineered design here. All this stuff looks the same. Why? Why does it look the same? So, like it's an interesting thing to think about. Like I went to film school in San Francisco, right? So I went to some pretty wacky talks and speakers and whatever. And I remember there was an actor who was giving a kind of a talk to us as graduating students, that basically said that you told us that you are all just a dream I am having. You are just actors in a dream that I am having, and you're here to serve my universe. And I remember being mildly offended in the moment because it seemed to take away my agency as a person. But I've thought about it a lot over the years, and it's really interesting, right? Like how much does what you do on your tomorrow affect me, right? But right now, because we're connected, because we're talking, we're making decisions together, our universes are communicating together. We are creating opportunities together. So it's interesting to think about how much other people affect and impact us, and what reality is. Something I was just telling my daughters about this morning was if a tree falls in the woods, right, does it make a sound? And they're like, well, of course it does. A tree falls and it hits the ground. It's like, yes, but does it make a sound? No one's there to hear it, right? So you have to then question, what is sound, right? So I think that as far as whether or not the universe is just in our head is I think at least part of it has to be, we have a control in the universe that we don't fully understand or grasp yet. But I feel like we're getting there. We're starting to map things, and we're starting to recognize, hey, there are currents in our bodies, currents in the ocean, currents in space that all act, function, and look the same. That can't be a coincidence.
You can take everything you just said and say, fuck it, I don't believe you. Or I don't want to believe you. That's where I'm so laughably in the grand scheme. You have a brain, I have a brain, Randy has a brain, everyone has a brain theoretically, and
some of us just use it as much as others.
Yeah, but with this thought process, where I'm going, I guess, is how much impact do your parents have on you? Because if your parents are flat earthers, but you're a A+ student just crushing it in the system, when does that become an issue? Yeah. Or do you just completely, nope, I love my parents, they raised me, they have a fucking crazy belief, we moved on from that a while ago, but that happens. And that's one that I weigh on a lot of, that mentality in the brain of belief.
Also, what you said a few minutes ago is, slightly offended by what he said in that class, but at the same time, it's you, to me, will be nothing more than a memory tomorrow, because chances of us talking are slim to none, and you talking to us, I mean, it's going to be nothing but a memory of our conversation, which is nothing more than technically a dream.
Right. Yeah. Well, and think about how many people you've interacted with in your life. How many do you remember?
Not all of them.
Right. So, I mean, we are walking around in a dream in a lot of respects, right? But this moment that we're living right now is a construct of all of those dreams woven together, right? We can't go back and change what we did, and we can't really do anything about what's coming. So we're at this weird intersection of a collection of memories and choices, right? So in a lot of ways, that person who was speaking was correct, right? Like as far as her lived experience, I was just a dream to her. I was an NPC. I was a non-player character. I didn't interact with her. I didn't talk to her. I was just a face in the crowd. I was like massive effects, putting an effect in, for a crowd in a sports scene, like I was just a dude holding up a billboard in the background. Right? That's it. So I didn't matter to her life at all, but I had to be there. Right? So it's an interesting. I think the next 100 years are going to be very intriguing if we don't, decide to go completely bananas and reset the technological clock. If we actually stay on our forward progression, the next 100 years are going to be very interesting for the brain.
I would agree that plus the last 30 to 50 are already incredibly intriguing. With dreams on that conversational front, do you think there's and I want to choose my words carefully here, do you think there's a substance that unlocks or accesses or assists getting to maybe visuals or Like, where you
You're
can
talking like ayahuasca or something?
well, no, I'm saying like, is there a substance? Because I mean, I know there are people who are addicted to caffeine. Does caffeine help you? I don't think that's the one, but that's why I say substance too. Because, for instance, here I'll tell you a confessional story for you. I was microdosing at a concert, and I had like a 7-second TikTok in my brain of what would happen if I approached the man next to me or that was standing over here and we were getting ready to go stand next to him. And I basically said, hey, man, we really want to stand here and I'd love to buy you and your wife a drink here. We're getting ready to go get something. What can I grab you? And like his word for word came out. Like I knew what was going to happen. And I was microdosing. I wasn't balls deep. There was no colors. There was no crazy. I saw a cowboy at a metal concert and I knew if I walk up and I offer him and his lady a drink, one of them is sober and wants a water. One of them wants a beer. And I already knew the beer. And the only thing that I really didn't know, which one was driving, but I knew the rest of it in my head when I approached. And I had just that microdose effect of like, well, I'm walking in on clouds. I'm going to do this thing.
Yeah. So, there's two ways I want to answer this, right? So part of that is probably your brain being in a relaxed enough state, letting go of a lot of stress, distraction, whatever, and you're just an analytical mind and you were looking at them and you processed a lot of data, it matched patterns that you've recognized before, you were able to disseminate that data cleanly and clearly because you were in kind of a relaxed mental state, right? Your brain is a pattern recognition machine, right? So you pieced it together. However, I like to go into sensory deprivation tanks. I like to go in there for 2 hours. I'm not on anything. I suffer from being around electronics all day, every day, super amounts of anxiety all day, every day. So I just get wound up. I'm like, you know what? I just needed to chill. And I swear I have had the exact same experience you described, sleeping in a sensory deprivation tank in a weird elevated frequency state or whatever you want to say. And where I lay down, I close my eyes, 2 hours go by and I'm like immediately back out of it. But I know it's almost like you dip into the greater universe for a second and you get insight. Like I've walked out of there with knowing what was going to happen next, knowing how a deal was going to go down, how to respond. So I think there's a lot we don't know.
There's a question that is screaming out at me, and I want to give you a little bit of a dumb context, but it does tie in a little bit here. Randy and I have both done a very long kayak race, and I told him I did it before him, and then he was inspired because I told him to go fucking do it himself. So that
was his exact words, but it was 340 miles nonstop.
Yeah. So Randy goes out and does this thing, right? And like, again, kudos that this is like a super proud, like I tell a whole bunch of people about this, and so many people have tried to like prove that they're tougher than me. And I'm like, look, dude, I'm not tough. I just finished it. Like, I'm not here to win it. That said, I told Randy on this race about night 2:30 in the morning, some way, somehow, you're going to just trip your balls off without a substance in your body. Like, you didn't take it. It's produced in there, and like DMT is produced in your body, and we have cannabinoid receptors and all these things. Like, what in the wild world of sports is happening up in here? If we have things specific to these drugs and they trip us the out of our minds. So this race was a non-intoxicated race in any capacity for either of us, and I've all of the predicting the future at a concert, at a metal concert where I saw a cowboy, which again is that's a little interesting already. We'll phrase it as such. But here's the question I have after all of that very long-winded tangent. Where did I get the data where I came up with and knew the answers for these people?
Right. Well, so they were talking, I remember talking with somebody about altered states. So growing up, I grew up in Native culture. My uncle was like very involved in the tribe. I wound up doing a ceremonial sweat when I was 16, and I knew I was going to be some form of storyteller. This is back when I wanted to be a genetic engineer and cure cancer, right? I came out of that.
What? Those are pretty similar careers.
So
Right.
similar.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, my parents cried when I told them I was going to art school. Right. So, you know, and I remember, like, I don't remember being in the tent more than probably 5 minutes. I think I was in there for 2 hours, maybe more. So what happened to that time, right? Like, and it just, with the temperature, the like dehydration, the like different things that happen in there, your body goes into like a critical response, right? And you have visions, you see things, you experience things. I think that, I mean, I've talked with people. I was actually working on somebody. I was helping them with their autobiography, where they had a very, I don't want to go into too much detail on it, but they had a very like insane uh, um, near-death experience, right? Really wild, and they had an entire lifetime flash before their eyes. They lived it from youth to getting married to having kids to being old in old age and dying in that flash of an eye that was not their life, to the point that when they um, woke up from this near death experience, they were crushed that they had lost their family, that their family, they fully believed that their family was real, that they, you know, they wanted their wife, their grandkids, their, you know, and had suffered real like guilt and loss, and it never happened. Like, they were just gone for a minute, right? And isn't that wild that like something like in just a flash of an eye can like give you that kind of experience? They're still like, I mean, this was like 10 years ago I was working on this with them. They're still like, it's a lifelong thing that they wake up missing their wife, sleeping next to their actual wife.
Temporal distortion.
Yeah, something got crossed somewhere, right?
Yeah, and so with what you were jiving on there, and part of what I'll dive into on that part of that temporal distortion, that's those altered states. I kind of like to believe, I'm flirting with the idea in my brain that those altered states is like this infinite number of dimensions that exist in our brain that also overlaps with the infinite number in the cowboy at the metal show's brain. And that in one of those altered states, in a different state, different dimension somewhere, I knew him. So I just knew what he drank. And then I was microdosed, and then, you know, bam, I knew because of that. And I questioned that like accessibility. But temporal distortion, that stuff's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I almost, you talked about the race and stuff, and, you know, about 50 hours in, I could not convince myself that I had not been to this place before. Where I was, what I was seeing, I was deja vu 100%. I have been here. I knew it. And that was as after a full night of watching trees turn into shapes and figures and everything else from Exhaustion. But yeah, about 50 hours in, I still can't convince my brain that I've never been there before and did not do that race before. I've never done that race. I've never been down that portion of the river. I have never seen anything like that. But my brain kept telling me over and over, oh yeah, up around this corner, you're going to see this. And I think my brain was telling me that when I saw it, oh yeah, that's what we were talking about. And I don't know if it's like a survival mechanism that our brain goes through when you are either releasing certain chemicals or fight or flight, because you're now 50 hours without sleep. You're in 100-degree weather. The race is done in the middle of July, so it's the hottest part of the year in the Midwest.
You're eating the bare minimum.
Drinking the bare minimum. Running
much.
through about 25,000 calories in a 2-day span. It's weird. And then what else was weird that happened to me is we hit zero visibility fog at 3 a.m., decided to stop for a little bit till the sun started coming up. Well, it's still zero visibility. Off to my left, I could see like a crane from a barge that was on the river. Everywhere I looked, the bars from that crane was transposed onto the fog. I couldn't get out of it. It looked like it was right there in front of me. And it was the strangest thing. And I've looked it up on the internet trying to see if, you know, in Exhaustion, like your brain can transpose images or anything. I can't really find anything on it. But it was the strangest thing because there was an iron crane in front of me, surrounding me everywhere within that fog. And it lasted for about an hour. So it's not like I just saw it, it flashed. I could not get that image out. And I almost wonder, like with the near death experience and everything, if your brain is just sending images through as a fight or flight response to what you're experiencing in that moment, even though it's not real.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a weird one for you. So I only sleep about between 2 and 2.5 hours a night. Have my whole life. That's just who I am. I've tried
So do you
more.
shut down at some point and just take a long nap at some point, or is it always just go?
I go. I lay down. I try to lay down at like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock every night, but I will lay awake. It doesn't matter what I'm doing until about 3. And then I go to sleep and I wake up like 5:30, 6 every day. So
how much caffeine do you drink? or like, I'm serious. Like, actually, like, what is? Run me through. Don't you giggle that quickly?
Oh, I'm giggling because I live on caffeine.
I know, and that's why I'm curious, because I'm curious like what the variety pack is. I know I've got his ass like beat in the sense of lower, but what's your daily routine of substances that I guess people would care about in terms of like caffeine, alcohol, any, like, I know you said you don't drink much, but like what goes into your body per day other than food and water?
So I have a cup of coffee in the morning, just because I like hot drinks, and I like milk. And I used to drink tea with milk, but it limits what teas you can drink that go with like green tea and milk or not. It's just not a vibe at all. So I switched to coffee when I was living in San Francisco, just because I want that warm drink in the morning. And then I usually have a soda with dinner. Other than that, it's water, and that's about it.
So you don't have a nicotine, you don't have caffeine, you have a minimalistic, I guess we would say, caffeine. You don't have weed, you don't have alcohol, you don't have anything harder than that drug wise, I guess we should say. So,
no, I'm super boring.
I'm not trying to pry too deep on this. What do you have any like weird prescriptions that you take that do this to you?
No prescriptions.
So no big pharma does this to you. No substance that anything would be measured against the average bear would be the quick answer for this.
Nope. And I've been like that my whole life.
Probably like me, just can't shut your brain off the second you lay down. It's just the most random thoughts at all times, trying to process the day and everything else that happened.
And all the different universes I spun up and how much I screwed over 11th dimension James. Yeah. Yep. It's true. I wish I was kidding, but I'm not. But I have one for you. I once had a dream while I was sleeping, and I dreamed very intensely. I'm not usually in my dreams. I'm usually either someone else or just like a floating entity in dreams. I'm not really a person. I'm not really there. But in this one, I was there, and I was dreaming about my friend. She was a coworker actually, and she was up in a rigging on a soundstage during a live event, and a light, one of the big heavy spotlights, broke its thing, and she had to grab it and hold on to it and almost fell. And in the dream, I grabbed her and held her there. The next day, I kid you not, the next day I get a call from her telling me all about this crazy experience she had where a spotlight almost fell on a stage. Now, it wasn't as dramatic. It wasn't a very large spotlight, but it was over a bunch of kids performing, and it was, a spotlight, and she's like, I had to sit there and hold it the whole time. For the whole hour and a half long show. And it blew my mind. I made her swear to me that she wasn't lying.
Why do you think that happened?
I have no idea.
That's my, do you have a speculation? Like, I mean, you're a creative guy, you're a writer, producer, director, you're a sci-fi guy, surely you have an opinion, a thought, an original idea as to like what ties those two together.
I think it was one of those things where it's like we're all connected in a cool way, and like she needed help, and I was just tuned into the universe at that point and was able to provide help, even if that was just mental, right? Even if that was just like connecting to her brain and giving her the extra strength she needed to hold that light for the hour and a half show or whatever, right? Like,
okay. Let me give you a different example. Same thing. Okay. And I want to see if you answer this one differently. You ever turn around and catch someone staring at you? Like, you feel like you got who's on your back and you turn around, you catch them. What the hell gave you the feeling?
Yeah, I think it's
you have a thought there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of the same thing, right? It's the
Sorry.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
The difference that I want to jump in is that I equate one to physical, because like you feel it on the back of you and you turn, you catch it, versus one is overnight mental, completely disconnected. You're asleep, you're laying in bed. There's no chance that this woman is outside your window kind of thing, or some pranks going on. That is my difference, is one's completely mental and one is so to speak, physical. And I equate them.
Sure. I mean, I think the way that I view it is more energy, right? Like the person that's staring at you is directing energy towards you. They're thinking about you. You know, they're not, unless they're just staring at you for no reason. They're just kind of like, you know, I mean, because I've done that where I just, my brain goes to sleep and I kind of just stare off. I'm not really staring at you. My eyes are just pointed at you, right? But when you're actually like staring at somebody, analyzing them, spending energy, directing energy towards them, I mean, I feel like there is an energy exchange. And that's what I feel like you feel, is like somebody's exchanging energy with me. That's weird, right? And yes, that is physical, but I feel like that's almost the same thing that I was doing through the dream, right? Like, you know, I maybe I was thinking about her when I went to sleep, or, you know, something triggered in my mind as I was drifting off to sleep. Or she was thinking about me, right? And we made that energy connection over a distance, because like while that was happening, is when I was sleeping. Like it happened like almost simultaneously. Like, you know, while I was sleeping, that was happening. So,
Okay.
To play devil's advocate here,
sure.
I appreciate that, by the way.
Possible that, you know, I personally, I know I have dreams. I know they're vivid. I cannot remember my dreams when I wake up in the morning. I can maybe remember one aspect of it, but that's about it. I've even woken up right after the dream, completely remembered it, woke up completely gone. Could our brain be processing so many things at night that when you hear something or they finally coincide with a real instance, we grasp onto that, to where it's like, all right, I dreamt that happened in my dream, and it really did, but it finally happened in real life after so many times of it not happening. Like I said, just trying to play devil's advocate. I mean, I've heard many people have had dreams and then it happened, but is it just a coincidence at that point, or is it something where we're in tune with the universe?
I mean, there's the whole idea of confirmation bias, right? Like you experience something enough, you have those conversations enough, you dream the things enough, and then it's like, oh, it just happened to coincide, right? Like, yes, I believe that happens. But I also believe that there are some times where it's so weird that it's got to be something else, right? And like you bring up the whole like somebody staring at you thing, like that is weird. Like, how would you know somebody is looking at you? Like I can walk into a building. I think anybody can do this, right? If you walk into a building, you can feel when somebody is actually looking at you, like with intent, like with intensity, right? So that's weird.
Again, everyone's taught somebody doing it.
Right. Like it's so, you know, I think that you're right, but I don't think that's the 100% of the answer. Like you're probably 99% correct, but there's that strange 1% that doesn't make sense, right?
Can I give you thank you for this lead in? I know I'm an asshole and I'm going to drive here for a second. Okay, you want to hear my 1% conspiracy theory?
I'd love to. Yes.
The conspiracy theory, because that's what people love to label people as, I guess, with free thought. In 2007, we came out with the iPhone, and it was, approximately the same size with an exponential fraction of what it will have this year when it comes out as released. Or is it already out? I don't know.
Just came out last week.
Okay, so bitching.
They actually just filmed they actually used the new phone to do a full production and film nothing but on the iPhone 17 the Boston Red Sox baseball game.
Okay,
and the production was just as good, if not better, as the $100,000 cameras.
So this is leading all to it. In 2007, we released pretty much what I would describe as smartphones started coming out. And it was before they were actually smart. They were just smarter for your everyday. They knew they had a calculator built in. They had this and that and all the other crap, right? But they didn't really have the internet. And then we got GPS. And if you wanted to pay and do that, you could use it. And then we got the internet. We got data. And that was 2012. That's the same year that we took the idea of going smaller and smaller, flip phones, the Motorola Razr, the Pantera or Panera or whatever the fuck that tiny phone was. All of these things stopped, and we went to the bigger one because we got the internet, we got porn, and we got data. We had social media, we had everything on our phones. And now, because, and I'm going to make up a name here, so Sophie, and I'm sorry if there's a Sophie listener to this. Sophie has just blasted Facebook every goddamn day with her, Sophie wanted to pet a cat today. Well, okay. Sophie, went out and changed her laundry today. Like, okay, well, but we do this over years of social media and over years of Facebook and over years of connectivity at a bullshit level that we're not meant for.
Not
and
Sophie
no one
just bitches about everything.
Yeah, but the thing is that, like, as you scroll and you just see this over years, you realize, and I think this is part of that cowboy metal concert connection where now I know this person when I didn't know him. I have no knowledge of who this person is. I still don't know his name, kind of thing. But I think maybe that's that 6 degrees of separation that social media starts to bring in real quick. And I also think that social media, and I know I'll get haters for this, I think a lot of people on social media have a alternate dimension version of themselves on there because you meet them in person and they're jovial or they're an asshole or whatever version of themselves they are. That's true. And then you go on and you see the keyboard version of them and you just want to fucking choke them, dude. You just want to grab them and throw their head against a wall repeatedly until they're done. And I'm that same creative sci-fi version of myself where I have the 7-second TikTok of, should I beat this person to death? No, this is a stupid opinion on the internet. Don't do that. That'd be a bad idea, right?
Right.
I wonder about this crazy that is our phones are now ingrained. Kids can't imagine life without a phone and they're racing to get them. They're literally competing on who can get one first in school because that's going to be the coolest kid ever right there. And it didn't used to matter when your text cost money and the minutes kicked in after 9. No one gave a shit about your phone. That was if your ride left after school.
I mean, I'm on the old side, so for me it was your driver's license, right? First kid to get their driver's license and a car, you were the coolest kid on the block. You'd pack 25 kids in your 67 Mustang and drive around town. You'd have kids riding on your hood to try to go home with a ride instead of walking.
And now that's a hoopty, and the coolest kid's the one who can order an Uber X for all of his friends and go to the robot ramen place where you tip a fucking nothing. Like, I'm so baffled. And I think it's this box that we all carry in our hands. The one that we say quantum mechanics had to be solved to fucking understand and figure this out.
Yeah.
We never had a valid study. No one's ever done any of this studying on these things. We have no idea if we're supposed to be this connected to people. The blue LED isn't supposed to exist, for God's sakes.
Yeah, I mean,
are you that?
I think that there's enough data out there that shows that being disconnected as a species has not been good for us. So, it's one of the things that, like, the foundation of America, right? When we separated from England and built the government which we kind of are on today, was about small localized government, right? Like, care about what's right in front of you, set laws for what's right in front of you. That way you're not being represented and told what to do by somebody who lives 3,000 miles away and has no idea what life is like on your farm, right?
Correct.
I feel like every time a society, a culture, whatever has expanded its view and its reach and its control too far, stuff has gone bad, right? And I feel like that's kind of what we're living through right now with social media. Is like, we are so connected. Like, I know that I've seen things that I wish I did not see. My children have seen things that I did not want them to see, because we are now so and in damn near real time, right? Someone can die and I get to see that person die within 2 minutes of their actual death. Like, that's way too connected, in my opinion. Like, unless I was
That
actually
just
physically
happened
there.
3 weeks ago. I get a text message, open it up, and there's Charlie Kirk dying. Literally.
Yeah.
And all time, no, not blurred out, no anything, no context, just right in front of my eyes.
I mean, the second that you hesitate on the page, your algorithm makes sure that you get it again.
And that's all you get, every angle. Yep.
In the next perspective, and the next, and by the time your brain is so flooded with information, you can't process it. Now everyone's a fucking conspiracy theorist because no one knows what's going on. And we have a single, this is the narrative and this is what it's going to be.
Yeah. I mean, it's wild. The same exact experience for me. It happened. I got a text. I was actually on the phone with someone and she said, "Oh my God, Charlie Kirk just got shot." And I said, "What?" And I opened up Facebook and there it was, front page, top of the feed, auto played. And I said, "Oh, he's dead." I knew right away. Oh, he's dead. And, I just within 2 minutes of the event, I'm in California, that was in Utah. I knew that happened. That's way too connected. Like our brains are just not, I don't think our brains are meant to process that level of connectivity, and that's not just Charlie Kirk. It's everything, right? It's the world is the world is a very scary place, actually. Like humans are awful to each other, but social media has made it so that that's not isolated, insulated, events anymore. We are surrounded by it and exposed to it 24/7, which, I tell my girls all the time, surround yourself with darkness and eventually it will consume you. Right. And I feel like that's kind of what we're allowing to happen. And unfortunately, that's the stuff that gets the views. Someone can save a kitten. Nobody cares. Right. And that says a lot more about us than it does, the stuff that's happening. Right. So, it's a weird world that we live in, but I think that as we to bring it back to consciousness and extra dimensionality and all of that, I think that as we understand what our actions do and what the choices that we make and the situations we put ourselves in, what kind of consequences that has, not just for us but those around us, right? I go back to the almost accident, right? Like the guilt that I felt over killing an alternate dimension version of that family in that car, right?
Yeah.
Like that's something that I think it would help the world as a whole if we all just took a step back and be like, my choices have consequences, not just for me, but for everyone, and I don't necessarily think everyone should be dwelling on, what, the 50th dimension version of themselves is doing, but, at least your neighbor, like it creates the pathway for empathy. And I think that we've really shut down empathy just because we're so bombarded with darkness that we can't have empathy. It would crush us.
Does that darkness lead to the opposite of empathy, which I would describe as jealousy? And I think social media does a really great job of showing us what we don't have or how we're not good enough, and it keeps us around just long enough to keep baiting us in.
Comparison is the theft of joy, right? I mean, that's very true. And, it's like you look at couples on, I'm around young people a lot and they're like, "Oh, I want to be like this couple on Instagram." It's like, okay, but they probably hate each other. They're actors. They're acting. They are not that happy. I can guarantee you that. They probably don't sleep in the same house.
And
Yep.
the house that they're renting to take videos in for the day, and the bags that they got from the store that they're going to return because they can't afford them just to put up on Instagram.
Right. I mean, I know several Instagram influencers that are the perfect couple influencers. They hate each other. They don't live in the same house. The second the cameras stop rolling, they're yelling at each other. What was that?
Are they even a real relationship?
Not really, no.
Well, so have you, damn it. I ended up, it popped on after I watched something and I was falling asleep, but I woke up to the Netflix special where it's like the fake, it's the kid influencer documentary. And it's terrifying. And what you find out is that these kids are literally driven to the house, or they're getting, they get to the house and they're in a 100% staged relationship. They're not actually in a relationship. They don't know each other's middle names. They don't know each other's favorite colors. They've never done anything other than act, but for social media rather than the Hollywood, the major player that we used to know back before everyone carried a camera, because no one was ever always going to have a camera.
Yep. I mean, I think one of the things that's a very interesting case study that nobody's really talking about, right, is when did war change for us as a species? Vietnam, right? Why?
Yep.
Because they
1945.
it maybe started there, but Vietnam was really the one where we first started televising actual war, actual killings, slaughterings, like shooting up of villages, right? Like you got to witness death for real, right? And it got brought back to the media as part of the anti-war protests, right? That changed war for us. Like suddenly it wasn't about just going in, doing the job, getting out, and being done, right? It was like it became this big protracted thing suddenly, right? And I feel like we're doing the same thing now, but with social media, where it's like we're exposed to like things that like people who didn't sign up for that shouldn't see, right? Like my 10-year-old daughter should not see someone being shot and dying.
You sparked a thought. It made me think about I wanted to jump in and argue on you, and I wanted to say 1945, and you said Vietnam. You defended it very beautifully, in my opinion. And I realized, I think the major difference is we both named two events that I think we would both agree were significant inflection points. And it's very difficult to maybe nail down everything about one or the other. But I think one of the things that might be a key factor is the publicity of it, the accessibility to it. Vietnam was media. World War II, it wasn't the same, man. It was a different world. That was a completely different technological generation of the time, that would crowd around a radio if they were lucky, comparatively.
Well, what's interesting is 1945 and World War II glorified war, right? They showed the parades, they showed they glorified the war because they had to. Everybody was going off and dying. They needed to make it cool to, they needed the bodies, unfortunately, right? Like it was, and I'm not saying anything bad about World War II or anything. Like it's, like they did what they needed to do to get the job done, right? But Vietnam was almost kind of like the dark side of that, right? Where it wasn't propaganda anymore. It was like a very, you had moms watching, their kids being shot at and killed, right? Like World War II, they'd go to the cinema and they would roll a bunch of World War II propaganda footage about how great they were doing in the war. Like Starship Troopers, right, does a great job of parodying this, right? So it's you had like within what 30 years, 25 years, you had this like the pendulum swung way the other direction, right? So it's like you got here's the glory of war and here's the like dirty gritty truth of it. And in a lot of cases you had the same people who grew up watching the World War II stuff now watching the Vietnam stuff, and it was too big of a whiplash.
And to that point, and one of the things that, again, I think comes back to exactly what you just said, tying in where I was like going with that, is even the aftermath of war with regard to veterans. Veterans coming back World War II, those are heroes. Those are guys that are getting positions. Those are guys that are regarded well. And Vietnam, I don't think we need to dive too far, but I think that was a very different reception. And, we probably all in this conversation know someone who was ill received from that, maybe choice or not theirs. So, I think that's a very big another very big aspect or dimension for fun purposes on this conversation. But like another big part of that is reception, media, the portrayal, and all that on the aftermath too, because you start to see declining military numbers because of stuff like this.
Yeah, well, and to bring it all back kind of into the thing is like what's real, right? Like I think the propaganda machine of World War II versus the dare I say demonization of soldiers in war in Vietnam, like the war was the same. Like the stuff that happened was the same. I mean, World War II was atrocious. What was going on during all of that, right? So it's like the lens. Child influencers. Like the couples we see on Instagram. Like, man, they're so happy. That's the relationship I want. Why can't you treat me like that, right? Well, they're not treating each other like that. It's entertainment. It's fake. It's propaganda, right? So you have to get to the what's real, right? And unfortunately, I think one of the things that we need to do, I mean, I suffer from this too, right? Especially with my worrying about other dimension versions of myself, right? Like I need to worry about what's in front of me. That's what's real.
What about, how do you think it affects our brains and how we process everything? The amount of propaganda that we see daily through our phones, through social media, through shows and everything. It seems like one side, we'll just talk politics. One side is always demonizing the other. There's never hey, we worked together today to get this done. It's no, they just shut down the government. Well, no, they just shut down the government. Since that happened last night, I mean, I haven't seen much about it, which is surprising, but leading up to it, it was just each side demonizing the other one about how nobody can work together. We can't come to a deal. We no longer see eye to eye. And it's a constant pick a side now, stay on that side. And if you see somebody else on the other side, you need to attack them as well.
Right. Or you're not a good version of the side that you're on. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to go too deep into politics, but like I'm very, I'd like to consider myself patriotic. I love my country. I think it's the best country in the world. I don't want to be anywhere else. If you said you'd give me $1 million and told me to move, I wouldn't be able to pick a place. Right. But when it comes down to it, I want to stand in the middle of Congress and yell at everybody, right? Because it's become sports. People are so fanatically on their side of politics that they're more fanatical than I am as a 49ers fan, right? Like people are standing on the sidelines, jumping up and down, throwing stuff, cheering, and wanting to get in fistfights with people over politics. And it's like I care about people very much, right? Like I don't want anybody to get hurt. I want everybody to have the same opportunities that I have. And as Americans, right? Like that's what makes this country great. But I think that we've lost sight of the idea of what makes America awesome is that you can believe A, I can believe B, and we can get together and give birth to idea AB, where we both give up a little bit, but we both get a little bit. And that's what America was founded on. And that's what makes us great. That's what gives us the opportunity to be great, is this idea that you and I can get together, we can have civil discourse, and we can come up with a plan where we both give up a little bit, we both compromise a little bit, but we both get something out of it. We've lost that. Now we just want to fist fight over it, or yell and scream on the internet at each other and until one of us gets our way. But then as soon as the other side gets in power, they're going to undo everything you did, so it was worthless anyway. It's like, this is ridiculous.
But you before he came on, you didn't tell him where we're located, did you?
I don't think so. I don't think I never really mentioned where we're at.
Yeah. We're located in Kansas City, since you brought up the 49ers.
Oh.
Sorry, babe. Sorry.
He's gone.
Well, shit, this is going to be awesome. It's going to be like our first ever sensational exit.
Right? He's gone.
No, I
just throw the headphones at the screen and walk out.
So if we were to go back to what you guys were just talking about with regard to like where it was headed towards politics, et cetera, and then kind of got led to sports, I was going to say, what if we were to take away politics and we were to go to like nerds and jocks, and you realize that all the shows in the 90s were the typical wholesome, where there's a big brother who's going to beat up the little brother, and the big brother is going to get in trouble at school a few times, but he's going to defend the little brother at school. And all the stereotypical play by play. And then Big Bang Theory came out and showed nerds can be on top. Mm-hmm. And I'm really curious as to like the dichotomy of now where I think everyone's egos are just a bit inflated.
Yeah.
Everyone, like to an extent of everyone, regardless of what you are, there's something on the screen that you're going to be given in an algorithm that makes you think you're a little bit better than you are.
Well, it's likes, right? It's that dopamine addiction, right? Like, You post some. There's an audience for everything. Okay, there's like, I, you can come up with the craziest idea right now, and I guarantee you, if you post it on the internet and you pay the algorithm gods enough, you will get 1 million likes.
How about Venmo for a real quick example? People do that with public. It's like your bank transaction history is public, and you can scroll through a social media of it, and you're, what the fuck are you all thinking?
Yeah,
like I lie about every transaction description, and they're all private.
Right. It's the weirdest thing. I've turned all that stuff off for Venmo, so you can't see any of my social feed, because I just think this is the weirdest thing ever. It's like I don't want to know that you're buying a hamburger for with this other like what that does. I'm not interested, right? So yeah, I mean it's I don't know. Social media is a weird thing. Like I don't want to be a hater. Like I don't like it is what it is. Like I think that it's like I use my social media to basically like chat with fans who read my book, and I have a lot of really amazing conversations, and I wouldn't know them otherwise, right? So it's like in fact, I got into an incredible, not to shout out one of my readers. Like I got into an incredible genetic engineering conversation with somebody, which revived the 18-year-old scientist in me, because we were talking about genetic modifications in my book, and like exactly what genes would be edited, what they were going for super soldiers, like what was important in space versus terrestrial, and it was like a 3-hour-long conversation. I was like, this is amazing, and it wouldn't have happened without Facebook. So.
Well, and social media, I'm assuming that you rely on too, because I mean, a viral moment could mean a huge hit to your bank account. Mm-hmm. I mean, that could be a great boost for your sales, your movies. I mean, all it takes is one of your movies to go viral, and now you're a hot commodity. So, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of us, even us on here, I mean, this is great that we've got the technology to have talks with you and so far away from each other. But at the same time, if it were to go viral, I mean, that opens doors to talk to all kinds of other people. So we have now based business on that connection as much as we hate it.
Yeah. Well, it used to be newspapers, right? It used to be, talking to people around town, I mean, I think the important thing that, again, to kind of like bring this back in, just social media in general, like, politics, everything. At the end of the day, it's about money. Everything is about money, right? So you just, if you want to get to the root, and what I beg people to do all the time is, before you make a decision on something that you want to like die on the hill of, follow the money. Who's making money from it? Because that's influencing the decision, I guarantee you.
And with what you just said, the two things that I always love to laugh at is that, what did we do with money? We're all obsessed with money. We're all chasing money, following money. We monetized it for those likes that we just demonized. And we just turned to tribalistic. We just turned, all the nefarious, all of those are on board now. And the other thing that I always like to try to remind people, and they're not very good at this, if you're using something and it's free, then you're the product. Something about you is being collected. Mm-hmm. There's no one I've ever met on the internet specifically that does shit for free.
Yep.
Well, I wanted to bring this back before we wrap up and everything. I think you alluded to it. I don't know if you meant to or not, but one of your comments was everything acts the same. Is there any way possible that we're in some sort of simulation?
Love it.
Yes, I think so. I mean, I think the math bears out, right? Like they've actually done the math on whether or not, how probable it is that we're in a simulation. I think the math bears out. So yeah,
it's becoming more and more probable as more math is done. I mean, we keep seeing the binary. We see the repetitions in a lot of things. And, this was one question I did have today about it. Are we in a simulation? Then I thought, you know what? No, we're not. We can't be. I can walk up and I can rip that leaf off the tree, and then I can shred it up and destroy it, But then I thought, well, our science tells us that we cannot create energy from nothing. We can't destroy anything. I didn't destroy that leaf. I just altered its existence. It's still there within the binary of everything. So that made me start to think, well, I guess maybe it is possible, because I can't destroy anything. Us as humans, we can't destroy energy. We can transfer it, we can move it. So it's still always there in that code, per se, in one way or another. We can't get rid of it. It's always there.
Which is weird, right? That doesn't
Yeah.
really make sense, because stuff should be able to be consumed. Otherwise, we're in a closed loop system, and that doesn't seem natural. Right?
Exactly. And that's my thought process when I'm like, there's no way. But then, like you said, that loop, we can't destroy it. We can't create it, but we're constantly using it, shaping it, forming it, meaning it's still within that code if we were a binary, simulation.
Which proves the afterlife, right? Because if it's a closed loop, when you're dead, you're not just gone. You can't be. You have to be. You're still in the system somewhere.
And that was the other thing that you alluded to earlier, is that you brought up that what was it that you said? You said something about the damn it. Basically, the afterlife and everything, and that loop and stuff. So I can't remember exactly what you said. My bad. Go ahead, Kenzie.
No, I was going to say the math would actually suggest what we're talking about. And math and theological ideas really clash sometimes.
And we have a visitor.
Solid.
Wanted to get involved in the afterlife discussion. It's like, I used to be a billionaire, right?
Boy or girl?
Boy.
Well, he's probably used 2 or 3 of his 9 lives, so he knows a little bit about the afterlife.
Yeah. So I mean, you talk about tearing up a leaf, right? Like, math tells us you never even touched the leaf, because every space is divisible by half, right? You can never actually even touch that leaf, so says math, right? So it's like, what kind of weird system are we in? Like, some of the stuff that we take for granted doesn't make any sense, right? Like, if you want to really blow your mind, dig into gravity, right?
Oh, that. Mm-hmm. Like, that was one of my things that I was thinking about as I was thinking about that leaf in this conversation, that we have just the right amount of water. We have just the right amount of gravity. We're not squished by gravity, but it holds water to the surface of the earth. It's holding us to the surface of the earth. We have the moon that is in just the right position to have that gravitational pull that we need. Then we have the exact spacing from the sun to earth to give us, we have a wide variety of temperatures, but all of the temperatures on earth, one way or another, are survivable. It's just everything maps out to that perfect map to where it makes it to where we can survive.
Well, that's why life is obviously only on Earth.
Well, I don't know about that one either.
I mean, I disagree with that one, because probability states that it can't be just Earth, right? Like,
you too. I have to fuck with Randy sometimes.
So we have a disagreement on I believe there's life out there. That the mathematical probability is there has to be life out there somewhere, but I just don't. I'm not convinced that it's here yet from somewhere else.
Sure. I mean, I can't tell you that way one way or the other, but what I can say is that the math says that there has to be life out there other than us. And here's the other thing, though, too, right? Like, regardless of your beliefs, as far as, like, higher powers or whatever, but, like, if human beings are all that infinity has to offer, man, that's super disappointing. So just take a minute and think about what the other dimension version of you is going to have to go through with this, right? Like, think about what the other people are going to be experiencing. And it changes your perspective. It changes how you react in different situations so much. Like, just, I mean, I think everybody gets mad, right? You get mad at somebody in traffic and you want to, like, road rage or whatever, and you want to, like, but then just take a minute and be like, well, why are they going so fast? Are they just an asshole, or do they have a sick kid in the back, right? Like, just taking that beat to think about something other than yourself, I think, is what helps us connect better in the universe, right? And I think that's one of the things where, if you have situational awareness and you have emotional intelligence, then you're like the tree roots that are talking to each other, right? Like, they did that study where there was an electromagnetic pulse from one tree being cut down in a forest, like 125 miles away. They've actually traced this pulse that happened where one tree was so upset and distraught that it was being cut down, and it told all the other trees, and they changed their electrical state, right? They reacted to this other tree being cut down, right? I feel like we're almost the same thing, right? Like it's kind of the same system. We're all connected, and we need to just take a beat and revel in that connection instead of reject it.
My wife and I were just up in Banff not long ago, in Canada, and we got a brief lesson on ravens and crows. Are you familiar with, obviously the birds, you know? But apparently if you piss them off, they are mad for 7 generations and will let everyone else about you know about you. And that is why there's so much. But like, if you look at Edgar Allan Poe and you look at all the, like, there's so much behind these birds that there's reasoning that they talk about this kind of stuff. So that I definitely hear what you're saying. My question with what you were just saying with the connectivity, can it exist on the internet?
I think it can. I don't think we're there yet.
Okay, I can fully appreciate that. I mean the internet, we're so young, we're stupid to it.
I mean,
we're
I think
so
so
stupid.
I think that I've seen stuff on the internet that I've had an emotional connection to, that I didn't know the people. I'm not from the area, never been to the town, but I watched it happen, and it impacted me to the point where I had nightmares about it and felt moved by it. I mean, my favorite example of this is going to make me look like an idiot, but I'm going to share it anyway. Remember the Blair Witch Project?
Yeah.
I was buying a plane ticket to go help in the search because I fell for all the marketing that hard. Right? I was going to fly out there and help find these lost kids, right? And
That's, yeah.
So, you know, I think that yes, it can exist on the internet. I think we just need to get over the idea of like just getting our dopamine fix, right? Because there's a lot of people that are doing stuff just to get the likes, not necessarily being genuine about what they're doing or their responses. So, you know, we need to get over the initial like allure of it, right? It's like the new relationship. It's like, you know, you want to go out more to like show off that you got the new relationship versus real genuine connecting, right? That comes later.
Yeah. Agree.
All right, Randy, I think it's time we get into some final thoughts here, huh?
I had 2 more questions for him real quick that are going to be
get
quick
into
ones.
those before it.
Yeah. So with your job and writing and producing and stuff, how much are you using AI these days?
Not that much. So I use AI for editing. So and a lot of times, like I'm feeding it stuff that I'm doing and being like, give me your opinion on this. Where am I weak on this? Where am I strong in this? Pretend you're a Hollywood producer. You know, what do you think of this? Where can I improve? You know, and it's more just like a brainstorming tool for me, right? Like, you know, for example, I just fed AI an outline I had for a book, and I was like, tell me what you think about this, and give me, you know, anything that's comparable to it. You know, and just, you know, it's almost like when I used to work in an office. We had an office space at Donner. We'd all work together, and my cat put its head in a paper bag, and it's this is where we're at in this conversation.
This actually might be that video that takes us viral, Randy.
But that might be
anyway.
We're trying to have conversations with real people, but a cat with a bag.
I mean,
that's what's going to do it today.
That trumps it all.
Geez, that happened. Now I can't even remember what I was saying. Does anybody remember? Oh, AI. Yeah. So, you know, it's like I treat my AI. It has a name. I call my AI Stan. You know, we go back and forth, and we kind of, you know, talk about ideas, and I get a second opinion on it, really. You know, and I also use it for like really complex math. You know, like I need to know where Mars is in relation to Ganymede in the year 2242 at this time.
Well, I mean, you have to use it as well, just for that aspect, because you make movies and you write, so you need it to be accurate, even if it is fiction. So somebody can't get. Well, you said it was 850,000 light years away, and it's actually 851,000.
Right.
You're wrong.
Right, and that stuff's important. I mean, it's important to me. I want it to be accurate, but it's helped with a lot of the math. I used to do a lot of heavy lifting of the math on my own, where it's calculating the penetration strength of something being shot in space versus the tensile strength of nanocarbon tubes. And it's like at whatever thickness, it's like that would slow down my writing process. Now I can just type it in AI and it gets close. I have it check itself a lot, and it's like, oh, actually, you know what? I was totally wrong. Let me try again. But it gets me close, and it does some of the heavy lifting there. It's a cool brainstorming tool. And then one of the things I really like doing is I like using generative AI art for ideas that I have in my head, right? So I was working on a script that was about going to the bottom of the ocean, right? And I had this idea for a diving bell, right, which is those big contraptions that slowly go down and slowly come up for decompression. But I wanted it to look a certain way, and I was having trouble visualizing it in the writing. So I ran a bunch of iterations on AI until I was like, oh yeah, that's it, cool. And then I was able to just describe it from the image, right? So, like I said, I think it's a cool brainstorming tool. I don't really use it much beyond that. I think it's really quite terrible at writing. It's going to get better, right? It's going to be able to write entire scripts and entire novels, and you're going to be able to say like, write a story about aliens invading Kansas City during the Super Bowl and denying the 49ers the win one more time, right?
That's oddly specific.
It was very.
Just I can't help but
I think he left out the part where put the fan in the crowd that has animosity.
Obviously.
Yeah. No. So, it's going to get there. I actually think that AI is eventually going to take over streamers too. Like, instead of like going on and looking up sci-fi films, you're just going to be like, I want to watch a sci-fi film starring Jennifer Love Hewitt about aliens invading New York City, and it's just going to make that movie for
Create a movie for you.
Yeah.
Well, I just saw the other yesterday that there's an actress that is 100% AI that they're talking about.
Tilly, whatever. Yeah.
TV deal.
Yep.
I mean, is that a problem? I see it as a problem.
I think
it's diluting the market, in my opinion. That's why I see it a problem, that you can get any actress to look any way you want at any time, to say whatever you want, and pump out a movie like you just said within 25 seconds. It ruins the creative process.
I don't think it's ever going to get to the point where it can remove human expression. Right? Like, I mean, just people have submitted stuff to me and been like, tell me which one's AI generated and which one's not, chapters or whatever. And I almost, with like, I'd say like 90% accuracy, can usually tell, right? Because there's something about the human condition and the human expression that just you can't capture, right? Like, even AI images, you can tell through the eyes that there's just no life there, right? And it's that uncanny valley. We've never been able to really capture that in any other medium other than actual humans. So I'm not super worried. I think there's going to be a market for AI stuff. I think it's going to become its own thing. They said the same thing about cartoons, like animated films, right? Like, it's going to replace live action. It's going to, do this, going to do that. It just became its own thing.
Did I see you were working on a new horror movie?
I am. I'm working on a couple, actually. Yeah.
Can you talk about them? Because I'm a huge horror fan.
So I can talk. So there's two that I'm working on. One is kind of an action horror in the vein of Jurassic Park, but with genetically weaponized wolves, which is pretty cool. It's I'm contracted to direct. I think I can share that. It's called Quarantine Island. I think I can share the name.
Okay.
It's super fun. And it definitely square in my wheelhouse. Genetically engineered weaponized wolves, all about it. And the team that's assembled for that is just, I wish I could share that because it's breathtaking. It's going to be an amazing film. I'm really excited about that. And then the other one is Flesh Off the Grill.
That's the one I saw that I was kind of interested in. The title,
Flesh Off the Grill.
Yeah. Flesh Off the Grill. I have known nothing about it except for the title caught my attention.
It's based off of a cannibalistic Native American tribe that was in the South, in the swamps of the South. And that a remnant of them still exists to this day, and they're still hunting people and eating people. Thus the name. But it's That's a good one. I read that script, beautiful script written by Gary Dover, and I remember reading it and was like, "This is." And when I first got it, I saw the name and was like, it's kind of an eye roll moment, right? Like, what kind of weird B C horror movie is this going to be? But it's so cleverly written, and the characters are so cool. It's got a great twist in it.
Ooh, I- These with twists.
Like where you think it's gonna, like, it takes all the cool tropes of like a kind of slasher horror movie and sets you up to believe that it's going that way, and then like does a dog leg, and you're like, what? It's really cool. It's a really cool script. I'm really excited about that one too.
Awesome. Can't wait. Well, like I said, let's wrap this up. A final thought from me, man. James, thank you. I enjoyed the conversation. Get some sleep, man. Get some sleep. I don't know how you do it. But I enjoyed your take on everything, and you made it actually to where it was. I have my doubts about how this is even possible. Like I said, the multiple universes, the chances, but to be intertwined the way you said it actually makes a lot of sense and kind of branching off. So, yeah, it pulled it all together for me. And thanks for coming on, man. I really do appreciate it, and I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having me.
I've got I would actually, I'm going to do something I've never really done. I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to defer the rest of my time to you because I kind of want to hear your thoughts. I think Stephen King got it wrong when he wrote Cell, and in the sense that we were just going to start attacking ice cream trucks and crazy shit. But I think that he got it right in the sense of conceptually cell phones are going to make some people crazy. And I don't know if the whole world goes mad based off of it. I think there's a part of the world that unfortunately is just going to have to go mad due to them because of it, and maybe that sparks the study that teaches us what the hell we're doing with them. But I want to actually hear your thoughts. What do you think about my crazy thoughts on the cell phone theory, and that connection is tying together some of these dimensional thoughts that it's actually what initially led me to reach out to you. And so that's where I want to try to shut the hell up actually and do this with you. So what are your thoughts on that cell phone thing?
I think that you're onto something there. I think that cell phones have us connected in a way that we've never been connected before. And then you think about how small the microcomputers are in there, and what the amount of data that they're processing, and where they're pulling that data from, and it creates a lot of question marks for me, right? Like, I know that I've experienced things where I've looked at something on the internet, on social media, and have been influenced by it, and then tried to find it later, and it's nowhere to be found. And I know I saw it. I know it was a real thing. Where did it go? Right? So, I think that think about it this way, right? Like, we used to, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but we have I live in fire country. We have one of the fire choppers flying right overhead.
We hear just a little noise, but this end it's pretty clear.
It's not too bad.
Cool. So the think about it this way, right? Like, when I was growing up, if you had a TI-85 calculator in your pocket, right? Like, you were
bitching.
You were a badass, right? But it was like this extra thing that you had to carry, and they told you not to use it because you're not going to be carrying around your calculator with you all the time. Liars. Right? We actually are. And a 4K camera that shoots 180 frames per second slow motion, and the internet, and a laptop, and word processors, and AI now, like, we have a supercomputer in our pocket. So, like, that begs the question of, like, are we supposed to have that kind of interconnectivity? Are we supposed to have that kind of computing power? Part of me wants to say no. I love it. Super convenient. It's super fun. I play a lot of solitaire. I play the shit out of solitaire on my phone all the time, and I don't know what I'd do with all that time if I didn't have that, right? So, it's like, but then I wouldn't be engaged. My brain would be resting, right? I think a lot of what we're dealing with just as a society, as a species, is that our brains are no longer resting. We don't have downtime. We are constantly engaged, constantly processing information, and our brains don't know what's real and what's not. We just are experiencing it, right? The fear that we feel watching a horror movie is the same fear we feel when we're, in the woods and we hear a twig break. Our brains don't understand the difference. They just understand experience, right? So, I think that being so connected to a device and not to people is bad. But we're connecting to people through the device, and that has to have ramifications. It has to. Like on a deeply quantum level, it has to.
I do appreciate your thoughts there. I will give you my most asinine pitch ever.
Okay.
I would love to help the thought process if you think it has a validity or a snowball's chance in hell, as my dad would say. I would love to consult on the conceptual rewrite of Cell your way. And I want to do it based off of the impossibility that we went through creating the blue LED and science that's actually existed, and take what we know as of now. But if you would ever consider some form of that, I think that'd be a lot of fun. And again, I've got hours that Randy can attest to where he's so sick of me that if you ever want to do something with a cell phone thought process on a sci-fi horror movie, I would love to chat with you about it, because I've got a lot of thoughts.
I'm in. I'm 100% in. I'll declare it right now for everyone to hold me accountable to.
Holy shit, I might have gotten something there. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, my guy. This wasn't a proposal on a grandstand or anything.
No, I'm in, man. I'm a sucker for good story, right? So, I think this is stuff that I've wanted to talk about, wanted to write about, wanted to share. It's just, it's like I wait for signs, right? Like that's that whole interconnected thing, right? Like I wait to be presented with the option, and then we do it, right? We commit, we go for it. So yeah, I'm in. Let's make it happen.
All right, James, I can't thank you enough for joining. Again, you were a guest that I was very excited about and nervous about. But this has been an incredible time, man. Take a second, give us any of your final thoughts. Make sure to plug anywhere that you want people to find you, anything that you want to know about you.
All right. Well, it's been awesome. I'd love to be back. I'd love to come back. Once we've got our script written on the rewrite of the Cell, let's do another one and talk about that. And then as far as me, the best place to find me, I'm on all the social medias, James B. Fox. Or the best way to follow anything that I do is thejamesfox.com.
Oh, actually, I have a last minute question. This one's just for fun because you just mentioned it. When I invited you, your first actual response was, "Did you mean to get me?"
Yeah.
It's because of how popular aliens are now. Obviously, life doesn't exist outside of Earth, and it's not aliens. But
there is another James.
With that, like, I'm actually curious, how much do you get a doppelganger, so to speak, or like?
A lot, actually. So I actually wound up with a really good relationship with James Fox because we both lived in the Bay Area, right? We both lived in San Francisco. He lived in northern San Francisco. I lived in the city. We're both filmmakers. He does documentary, but we both write. But like, I wind up getting invited to a lot of his stuff. In fact, there was I was supposed to go to a convention that I was really excited about in Vegas, and they were like, we're going to have the car pick you up. We're going to have the jet come get you. We're going to come do this, do that. I'm like, dang, I finally made it. This is great. They were talking about my books, and, I was just like, okay, cool. And then they asked one question. I was like, ooh, wait a second. Hold on. Which James Fox do you think I am? And they're like, what? And so I wound up actually reaching out to James's agent, and I was like, hey, I think I may have inadvertently booked one of your conventions. Here's all the information that they've given me so far, right? It's interesting. And then there's also another James Fox that was an actor and producer and writer that was in the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And so we've all shared IMDb credits. Like, we're constantly they're constantly being switched and misappropriated, and we're constantly like in contact with each other as like media people and like switching stuff over. It's been pretty fun, actually. It makes me laugh every time.
Well, at least one of the James Foxes is a sci-fi writer. One of them's obviously a documentary maker with no sci-fi. Obviously, Randy.
Oh yeah, no.
And then so Anywho, no, James, thank you. This has been a absolute blast. And again, when we crank the script out, we'll update the people.
We'll do it
Yeah.
again. Absolutely.